this video, we will be discussing about a method by which we can use geometry nodes to assign UV map data onto mesh like this. You can see this is default mesh data. This is the default mesh data, which is assigned when you basically create any object, and then after the UV custom UV unwrap kind of thing, we get this. It is highly customizable and very flexible without much headache. Like you can see, I want to remove this, then you just rotate it. X, Y, I can just rotate, and the UV coordinates will dynamically change as soon as I do that. As well as when you can see this is the normal UV unwrap. Let me delete these possible, that is no, it's not deletable. Anyways, so before this is the before the modifier data, how it looks in the UV panel, and after applying that same the modifier, it becomes like this, which is a lot less headache than like manually going through each and every mesh part and unwrapping it, or clicking follow this quad, follow that quad, then thinking all that. Just you create a new two new curve objects, x and y, basically. Just define two different the x the data and the y data of the UV unwrap. Using these, we basically take the value of the nearest curve and use that curve's factor value of the geometry nodes in order to assign the UV coordinate. So let's start from the basics. Let's hide all these. Let's start with a basic and humble path curve. So basically, what a factor value of a curve is. There's a curve, this test geometry node section I just made. Let's search spline parameters. That is the factor value, which basically says what is the starting point of a curve and the end point of the curve. We'll see when I do this. Yeah. As you can see, here is the black color and this is the white color. Black is basically the origin, the starting point of that curve, spline, I should say, not a curve, because curve is the whole object, while spline is a specific that curve thing. Anyways, this I duplicated. It happens to each and every part, each and every spline of the curve object. You can change it, but it always has this. Now we can also reverse it. Toggle cycle, no toggle cycle. And switch direction. Now it should work. All selected, switch direction. I just switch direction. Basically, it does reverses the origin, the assumed origin of the curve. So this is what we are going to use to assign the UV data. So imagine, let's take a cylinder. Cylinder works best to explain this concept. So what we're doing is basically just like before, you can see this is here's a black point and it goes white. Right. So this is important because this is the data we are going to use to assign UV data to this cylinder. You can see this the data, the UV data. let's do something to let's ruin it so it becomes unrecognizable. Yeah, this unrecognizable, and we cannot like miss uh, thinking that this is some other thing. Yeah, you can see this is what happens. Not good at all. Now let's go back. So what we want to do is we want to use this curve's factor value to dictate the unwrapping of this cylinder. So we want, let's say this, let's assume this curve is, let's say x determines the x coordinate of the UV. So we will use, so using this, the curves, the vertex points which are nearest to this, the black point, will also have the zero value for UV data, whereas when it approaches one value, the nearest point nearest to those parts will have one value assigned to that them in the x coordinate of the UV. Likewise, we use another curve. Let's name this x, and another, this should be straight, so path, then rotate 90, scale it down just enough. Yeah, like just like before, this part will also have factor. From 0 to 1. I'll reverse this. 0 to 1. So we want this exact thing to reflect on the UV system. Let's go to the node setup of the auto UV. Let's hide this and bring up this. So this circles, the curve object which circles is x, determines the x location, x data of the UV, whereas the y straight single longitudinal curve object defines the y coordinate of the UV. So let me explain how the geometry node works. Yeah. So here it is. This just I smoothed it out later on. It's not important. Let's go to the geometry node. So first, what do just let's think what we need to do to achieve what we want. We want the spline, the nearest splines to the right. So we go to each and every vertex of the mesh object. Then we compute the nearest uh, point on the curve object, and then use that point's factor value and assign it to the mesh object's vertex coordinate data, UV coordinate data. So let's see what is happening here. So this is the object itself, input, capturing the position, the data of each point. Then we are passing it through AutoUV custom group. You can see both the X curve object and Y curve object being passed through the same group. This basically computes the upper one computes the Y data, and the lower one computes the upper one does the X data and lower one does the Y data. Let's see how they look individually, like this and like this. So let's now go into this. Is just fairly simple if the node setup is. Still, let me explain how it works. So basically, we first of all separate the components of the curve. Then we sample it. I have set it to evaluate it because it just gives very smooth UVs. So after converting it to mesh, after resampling it, we are passing the captured attribute, and then passing the factor value. We're capturing factor value from the curves. Then after that, we are converting the splines into actual mesh data, which is in terms of edges and vertices. Then we calculate the nearest. After that, we calculate the nearest point on the curve uh, for each of the vertex on the mesh object. The position data, and this the curve data. We fed it to this. Now here we get the index of the nearest vertex of the curve data of the curve object relative to each and every vertex on the mesh object, right? And then we use this index data to extract the factor value, spline factor value, and output it from the group, right? Then, as I said before, we combine these two X and Y data, we get this type of thing, and then we store it using the store named attribute under these settings. 2D vector, because UV coordinate is always, UV data is always in terms of 2D, not never 3D. You can see it here. Even if I like hide this, always to X and Y, never Z, or never the Z come into play. And the UV data is always saved on the face corner, not the vertex. That was new to me. And then set it as UV, which should match with the name you set it set here in the object edit. What is this? In the object data, UV under UV maps. What it does is basically it takes all this the freshly computed UV data and stores it on this UV map part. Right. Now let me show you how you can do it, how you can unwrap while editing, using editing. For demonstration purposes, I'm using X curve, X just other than 1, right? As you can see, since there is only one spline in this object, so each and every vertex is using the nearest vertex on this spline to for the x data of the UV. But as soon as I add give more data, you can take it. You can say this kind of weight painting, kind of, not exactly, but it feels like weight painting. So I just moved it here and gave more data to for the mesh to work with. So now for all the for the vertices in the upper part of the tunnel, they are using data from this curve, whereas the vertices in the bottom of the tunnel are using data from this spline for the data. As you can see, the transition is very crude. So let's add more data for it. This should be enough, right? So just like that, with 3 splines, we have successfully UV unwrapped. Let me polish it a bit. Or yeah, done. And you can see it works with circular shapes as well as planar shapes. Let me add another curve path and bring it near to the this plane. So just like that, we have unwrapped this object using curves. Now let me demonstrate for the Y. Just like before, if I delete some parts, we'll use the existing whatever data that exists for the time being. As I add more and more data, it will we can choose the best suitable data, just like this. You can delete data if you think too much vertex this control points exist, or add as much as you want. Like in this case, I am removing data just to make to keep things simple. You can also reverse, rotate the curves, and the UV will be updated live as you edit it. It's very handy. So this was it. Let me know if you have any confusion regarding this this auto UV method. I'll be happy to help as much as I can, and I'm sorry to that I'm not able to push out more videos as my college is going on. So semester exams and all that. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but still, I'll try my best to push more videos out. I'm currently working on my next character. Let me show. I've posted some clips on YouTube, Twitter, my Twitter handle. I'm trying to understand and improve what I've already done before. As you can see, but my laptop is lagging because of the shaders. work on her is like you can say 85% done, but that I'm working on the clothes and all. I'm not the best fashion designer, so it's being difficult for me to like conceptualize or get more ideas regarding how should she look. So for now, I've just taken inspiration from this neon Evangelion like skin suit. I've just slapped it there and used simple musgrave, no, Warna texture, mirrored it both sides, and just I can uh, you can choose whatever this value I want. Mesh see, I just why is it not working now? This was like now. This Warna texture, I just change the seed and I get new patterns. Oh, that I like. This one, yeah. So I have been working on this character. I post regularly on the progress I make on Patreon. So be sure to support me on Patreon as well as on Twitter. All the links are in the description. And I'm very thankful for my patrons who have been supporting me for past like 2 years. Even though it has been very tough for me to push out more videos as well as study properly. So, but this UV auto UV was very interesting. So I had to make a video about that. And thanks to the Blender Foundations to give us this beautiful software Blender, and thank them to continuously like upgrade and improve this piece of software to the extent that it's been like it's the first choice for I could say it can be the first choice and perhaps the last choice for any indie game or designer or sculptor because of how capable Blender is. Before you go, be sure to join my Discord server, and if you want, you can send me those suggestions. I'm really like uh, finding it very difficult to actually find the right kind of clothing and the whole character design thing as a whole. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.